Well, good morning, good evening, or good night, depending on where you are in the world today. And welcome to another Instagram Live interview on behalf of the Wellness Lifestyle Conference. And today we have the joy of interviewing Silvia from Hummingbird Hypnotherapy. And I'm about to add her to the live, which I think I'm getting better at doing now. Let's see if that goes. So I'm learning how these things operate. And Silvia is on the live and joining. Fantastic.
Here we go.
Good morning. How?
I'm really well. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. Thank you so much for asking. How are you're in the UK, are you not?
I am in the UK, yes. Waking up to snow this
Ah,
morning.
fantastic. Is it a lovely, beautiful, snowy day, I hope?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's not even, well, the sun is beginning to come up right now, but yeah.
Oh, I'm so jealous. We've got obviously summer down here, and everybody goes, "Oh, aren't you loving it?" So I'm like, "No, I'm a winter baby. Like, give
Oh,
me snow
really?
and rain any day." Yeah, much prefers, much prefers. But anyway, Sylvia, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this interview, and I know it's quite early there by you as well. So thank you for that as well.
Okay.
Before we dive in, I wanted to just ask you a little bit about you, for our listeners at home who are joining us and also catching the replay. Could you tell
hmm
us a bit about yourself and what made you get into this beautiful healing modality as part of your work?
Yeah, definitely. So in my life, I've worked in a few areas. I started off as a telephone counselor for like a parenting
Mm-hmm.
charity. In my sort
Mm-hmm.
of work towards being a social worker. And I trained as a social worker and then worked in child protection for about 10 years. And that was, how that went. But because of really my own kind of mental health, and it was a really stressful job, I started to look at other things that I could do. I loved the element of working with people. That was the bit that I liked about my job, but there were lots of things that I didn't like about that job. So I thought,
Right.
well, what can I do instead? And I actually looked back at a sort of more formal counselling qualification first of all. Um, and it's a funny story, really, because the first year of that course was hypnotherapy, which I hadn't considered. And I was like, oh, right. But it said if you've got some, relevant qualifications, you can skip that year and go straight on to the next part. And I was like, all right, well, does a social work degree count as relevant qualifications? You'd think it would. And they were like, no, no, it doesn't actually. I was like, oh, right. Okay. And really, when you think, well, things were meant to happen because it
Mm-hmm.
was absolutely amazing. And as I said before, my own mental health was not great at the time for lots of reasons, not just the job. I'd been kind of carrying some trauma and anxiety and depression
Mm.
for a really long time. And as I started on this journey of learning about hypnotherapy, I realized how powerful it was. Um, so there's two reasons. I realized how powerful it was for others, but I also realized how powerful it was for me. And it literally changed my emotions. It it just it really did. It was the one thing that really helped. And I tried lots of other things before. So
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of in a very short space of time. That's how I ended up training in hypnotherapy.
Amazing. So this is really intriguing for me because you're actually the second hypnotherapist that I've interviewed.
Right.
And both of you have said sort of the same thing about how incredibly powerful this is. And it's something that I've always wanted to try myself. But, and this is kind of going into the topic that you actually wanted to discuss today, I've kind of held myself back because I have an idea as to how it would work, but there's something in me that goes, oh, well, it can't possibly be that good. You know, it cannot possibly change you so fundamentally. But yet I've heard so many amazing stories from people who have been to a hypnotherapist. One of my friends actually recently, well, I say recently because COVID time makes everything feel weird. But about 2 years ago, she actually went to a hypnotherapist to help with her smoking addiction. And I kind of looked at her askance, which you would think I wouldn't, being in the energetic healing community. And I went, oh, that's never going to work. And a week later, because she was smoking like between half a pack and a pack a day. And a week later, I said to her, oh, you know, how's it going? And she goes, I haven't felt the need for a single cigarette. I haven't had a single one. For one session. She goes, yeah, one session. That's all it took. I'm absolutely amazed. But let's talk about some of the other beliefs that people have around hypnotherapy. What has been your, I suppose, experience with society at large?
Yeah, I mean, so I've noticed this a lot more in the past year, actually, because like a lot of people who are self-employed or, you know, running their business, they've been going to like 5 million Zoom networking meetings.
Yeah.
So I've met a lot of different people, and like, you know, many people. And it still does astound me, I suppose, when people go, oh, you're a hypnotherapist. Oh, I better not look at you. Oh, I better, you know, you're going to turn me into something weird. Are you going to make me do something silly? I'm like, no, I'm not. This is a valid therapy, you know, and, you know, and I'm not magic. I don't have the power to change you and do things to you that you don't want to do, I promise. And I always use my daughter as an example to this, who is 8 years old and still does not go to bed. And I say to people, if I had that magic power, I'm telling you now, I would have used that. I would have used it.
Absolutely. I can believe that.
Yeah. So yeah, it is, because what I tried to say to people is that it is the complete opposite hypnotherapy, actually. It is about giving you control. You know, it really is that. That is what it is about. Taking that, you know, your friend for the smoking, at the time when she smoked, she wasn't in control over, she didn't want to smoke, but something else was controlling her to pick up that cigarette, you know, that drive or addiction or whatever. And she took back control and was like, I don't want to actually smoke. Therefore, she changed that within her mind. The hypnotherapist didn't tell her not to smoke. She decided she wasn't going to smoke. And hypnotherapist helps you find that space where you can make that change.
So then a question that I have for you, and let's treat this as if I'm a potential client coming to you, and I'll give you a very real problem that I have. And one of them is around money and wealth specifically. So something that my friends and I have laughed about for years is when I'm working for somebody else, I can make them millions upon millions. Doing it for myself, there's this immediate block. So I can use the exact same tools, the exact same methodologies, but somewhere along the line, there's this breakdown in work ethic, in follow through, and then also obviously self-doubt creeps in, and oh well, maybe I'm not actually as good as I think I am. Is that the kind of situation that a hypnotherapist like you would be able to assist with?
Absolutely.
And if so, how?
Okay. Well, yeah, absolutely. And that is about somewhere along the line, you have formed a belief, okay, which has led to a behavior. So you mentioned there, you know, that self-belief, or am I good enough, a bit self-critical somewhere along the line, okay? And then that kind of leads on to the behaviors where you might not feel like you want to put yourself out there as much, or you might not make that call, you know? So belief and then behavior. So if we go by the principle that everything about you is stored in your subconscious, which it is, okay? We pick up beliefs, we form beliefs throughout our lives. A lot of them are formed when we're children because we're quite impressionable at that time, but not necessarily. You can pick them up all the way. So everything's in the subconscious. In hypnosis, which you are in a hypnotherapy session, that is where you can access your subconscious mind. Okay, that's when your subconscious mind is most active. So it's that space between being awake and being asleep. Your subconscious mind is active. Now, we actually go in and out of hypnosis quite a lot throughout our day that people don't realize. So perhaps when you're concentrating on something or driving, that's a really common one, and you just find, oh, some time has passed, but I don't know how that time has passed. Maybe sometimes when you're reading a book and you think, I've read 5 pages and I don't remember a thing. You've just drifted into hypnosis. So it's not anywhere, it's not anywhere that you haven't been before, but my job is to take you to that space and keep you in that space, I suppose, so that we can get the work done. So let's imagine we're in that space of hypnosis. There's everything about yourself is in there. Very easily, and this does sound simplistic, but it kind of is, we access that part where that belief is. What is it that's stopping you from doing this for yourself? And your subconscious mind will, you know, go through and find the file that has that bit in it. And be right, it's this belief about myself, and maybe it was formed from something somebody said to you or an experience that you had. And we don't dwell on that too much, however, because really this is about moving forward. And your subconscious mind wants the best option. So if you kind of imagine that you could have a conversation with your subconscious and say, right, this belief is not actually that helpful. Let's look at it, because, you know, it's kind of stopping me feeling good and it's stopping me getting my work done. So I wonder whether we can really look at this belief and is it really true? And from what you've said, I'm going to assume it isn't true, actually, because, you know, you're very accomplished, and, you know, so we just kind of have to say to your subconscious, you know, this isn't really true. Let's look at all the evidence that says this isn't true. You know, I'm doing really well. I've achieved a lot of things. Maybe I need to let that one go. And that's where we do the work, in the subconscious. And that's how it changes. And that's how it changes from the moment you open your eyes again.
Wow. So then I guess my question becomes, you know, and I suppose it's sort of the answer is how long is a piece of string, but how many sessions do people generally, and I know I'm asking you to make an average here, but how many sessions do people normally need in order to get the results and the changes that they're wanting?
Okay, you're right. It does depend on the person. It depends on what the issue is. However, as a rule, the more specific the issue, the easier it is to resolve. So stopping smoking, for example, is a very specific issue. It deals with one specific thing, one specific addiction, you know, so therefore we can really hone in on that and deal with that. There will be other complexities, even with the stop smoking, but trauma, for example, you're going to make some changes you can make some changes in one session and the person is going to be feeling better. But you might find that other things crop up, because sometimes what it does is it sort of, once you've opened the gate sometimes, and you'll know this, you kind of got to roll with it, and there might be other things that pop up that you might want to deal with. So that might be, you know, 3 or 4 sessions.
Yeah.
But we're not talking 10 sessions, we're not talking 20 sessions. It is relatively a short period of time compared with other therapies, if that makes sense.
That does indeed. And I like that results-based approach to therapy, because one of the things that I often say to my clients is, you know, if you are still a client of mine 2 or 3 years down the line, I haven't done my job. You need to have the tools available in a very short space of time to make the changes that you want. So, you know, if it's just and not knocking talk therapy, I believe that it has its place, absolutely.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If there isn't an element of real growth and progress, then to me, we as therapists are not doing our jobs. Because, like I say, there should come a point where the client goes, I don't need you anymore. I want to continue because I really like and enjoy your company and enjoy all the work we're doing, but I don't actually need you anymore.
Yeah.
And I think that is, so I really do appreciate that model that you are approaching it from.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I quite often, one of my classic clients actually is a person who has tried, probably like myself, to be honest, lots of different, you know, things in the past. Perhaps, you know, they'll say, oh, well, I spoke to a counsellor for about 3 years, and you're like, okay, and you don't feel any better, right? Well, maybe you need to try something else. And I'm not like you knocking talking therapies whatsoever. It is really, really valuable. It's with anything. And if I, you know, sometimes I have clients as well, and you think, even myself, you're like, right, well, don't seem to be getting anywhere here. What do we need to do? How can we, we're looking in the wrong place, or, you know, our expectations are not where they need to be, you know, all of that sort of thing.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if I may ask, how do your clients actually take that? That's something, because I ask this because a personal thing where I've had clients where I go, you know, we need to really hone in on this because you're just not making the progress that you need to do. And then if they're actually not making the progress is because they've now become addicted to the help.
Yes.
And they don't want to move forward because then they lose that resource. So I'm interested to hear how that is on your end.
It doesn't happen too often. I think because hypnotherapy is sold to the client, I suppose, as this fast-acting thing, I suppose. Not that it means that it's easy and, you know, anything like that, but it doesn't happen too often. What generally happens is clients might come back to me and say, well, I haven't noticed any changes. And then we'll go, okay, well, let's talk about this. Let's reflect on how you were feeling last time, or and then they'll go, oh, well, actually, and when they think about it, like, I have made changes, you know, things are moving forward. Sometimes, you know, that can be where I need to kind of focus them and support them in the growth forward, I suppose. But yeah, the thing about it is that hypnosis actually It's something that I always recommend people do on a regular basis anyway. So I'll have clients who will come to me and we'll work through specific issues. And at the end of that, I'll always suggest that they come back maybe once every couple of months just to have a relaxation session in hypnosis. Not necessarily that we're doing anything targeted, but sitting in hypnosis is really good for reducing stress. And I've become a bit of a bore actually about this because stress is really underrated, and people are not. People just seem to think that stress is just a normal thing now, and it's not, and it's quite damaging.
Yeah. So I actually, and I completely agree with that, because I have my best friend actually passed away 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and he was 33 years old, had a heart attack on the golf course. Out of the blue, no pre-existing conditions, nothing like that, not COVID related. And when I look at it and people go, but he didn't have any pre-existing conditions, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, but you guys didn't really realize how much stress he was under. And I don't think he knew how much stress he was under. Because like you say, we just kind of accept it and we go, oh no, I can handle this. I know how to cope with this. I can deal with it. As long as I'm getting my workouts, it's fine.
Yes.
But it's actually really not, because that stress does build up. And it's the silent killer. It really is. The work you're doing is so beautiful. The other thing is, and I know short on time, but just very quickly before we wrap up, the other thing I think that people tend to not realize is, even if you're not doing anything, so even if you're having a break from work, a mental health day, if you're living in a city, just being around harsh lighting, noise from trucks, just the general hustle and bustle, used to it, we don't actually realize the stress that puts our nervous system under.
Absolutely.
We just kind of accept it as part of life, when in fact...
Absolutely.
Silvia, thank you so much for today. Before I let you go, though, could you please share with our listeners as to how they can get in touch with you, what the best avenues are, and then we'll also have a brief thing just about your chat.
Brilliant. So the best way to find all of my details is through my website, which is hummingbirdhypnotherapy.net. That has got the links to all my social media on there, and obviously if they're watching this, they'll see my Instagram. But that's got the links to everything and all my contact details. Oops, I've lost you there a bit. The connection's gone a little bit.
Fantastic. I assume that you are also doing remote sessions at the moment, is that right?
That's right. So I can work with anyone.
Oh, sorry, I was saying, are you doing remote sessions as well? So if clients...
Yeah, so I'm delivering all of my sessions via Zoom or whatever platform people have. That's fine. So yeah, it's really flexible and works just as well. In fact, I would even go as far to say a little bit better.
Okay, brilliant. Well, that is very good to know.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you are a speaker on the Wellness Lifestyle Conference that we're hosting at the end of this month, and we're going to be very excited to have you there too. And those listening, obviously, as usual, the link for the Wellness Lifestyle Conference, if you have not signed up, is in my bio. And we will... So if you are watching this on YouTube or Facebook, the website will be in the comments as well. Sylvia, thank you so much for your time this morning. I really appreciate it, and for a deeper look into the world of hypnotherapy. We look forward to working with you soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for having me. It's been great.
Absolute pleasure. Cheers. Chat
All right.
soon. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.